Hi everyone! I've talked about pick-me vegans before on this channel, but I've never made a dedicated video on this topic. We're going to be looking at several examples, but before we do that, I wanted to define what it means to be a pick-me vegan. A pick-me girl is a girl who denounces feminism and shits on other girls in front of guys to win their favor. I'm not like those other girls, you know, the ones who demand respect and equality. I'm a cool girl who will laugh at your sexist jokes. Likewise, a pick-me vegan is a vegan who constantly has to distinguish themselves from those other vegans. You know, the militant ones who actually hold a consistent anti-speciesist position and advocate for animal rights. They propagate negative and frankly inaccurate stereotypes by insisting that they're a chill vegan who doesn't judge people for their dietary choices. The stereotypes I'm referring to here are that vegans are judgmental, self-righteous, preachy, aggressive extremists. If you truly understand the severity of the problem of animal exploitation, you'll recognize that these stereotypes stem from projection. People do not want to face the fact that they're complicit in such a horrific atrocity, so they project negative character traits onto vegans. This is a very common logical fallacy known as shooting the messenger. Pick-me vegans are people pleasers. They're conflict avoidant. If you've been vegan for more than a day, you'll know that veganism is an extremely volatile topic of conversation. You'll learn very quickly that avoiding the subject entirely is pretty much the only way to avoid conflict. This leads people who are conflict averse to shut up about it. And this is a problem because the animals need us to speak up for them. Of course, there's a time and place. I'm not saying we should be interjecting veganism into every conversation. But generally speaking, the animals need more people speaking up for them more often. A lot of vegans recognize the importance of speaking up about this, so they do. But because they want to avoid conflict, they couch their message in disclaimers such as, "Don't worry, I don't judge," and "I'm just sharing what I do, you do you." And they often promote reducitarianism over veganism. Without realizing it, they are critically undermining their message. If your measure of success is how much praise you get from carnists, then yeah, you're gonna feel more successful with this approach. But appeasing people is not the goal here. Attitude and behavior change is the goal. I'm not saying that pick-me vegans are completely unsuccessful at getting people to change their behavior and go vegan. I'm saying that their success is in spite of their weak language, not because of it. How many more people could they influence if they tweaked their approach? Now, of course, you could flip this around and say the same thing about more abrasive activists like Freely or Vegan Gains. And I wouldn't disagree with you. I am advocating for a happy medium, and there is room for different styles of activism within that happy medium. To illustrate this, I work in sales. I did fundraising for nonprofits for several years, and now I sell solar. To be good at sales, you have to be confident, and it helps if you're passionate about what you're selling. But most importantly, you have to use strong and assertive language. Which sounds more effective? If you'd like, I could set you up with a free solar consultation. One of our reps could design a custom system for you and get you an estimate. It's no obligation though. Do you want me to take a look at your roof? So what I can do for you is set you up with a free consultation with one of our reps. They'll design a custom system for you and get you an estimate. What's your address? Let's take a look at your roof. You'll still get sales if you take the former approach, but you'll get a lot more if you take the latter approach. And to take this analogy even further, you'll be more successful in the long run if you're genuine, kind, and assertive rather than shady and aggressive. When it comes to vegan activism, it's tricky to measure success because subscriber counts and view counts are not necessarily indicative of how many people you've gotten to make positive changes. And we have no way of knowing what percentage of people who left a comment on Freely's video saying, "You turned me vegan," are still vegan to this day. But when it comes to sales, it is very easy to measure success. At my previous job, I could see the percentage of monthly donors I signed up who canceled after 1 month. At my current job, I can see the percentage of people who actually follow through with the appointments I set up. If I were using weak language and telling people they can cancel anytime, my stats would reflect that. If you want to be as successful as possible, you need to build value in what you're selling. Saying things like, "Don't worry, it's no obligation, you can cancel anytime," diminishes the value of the consultation or donation. Again, this is proven by statistics. Weak language means more people are likely to cancel, because the way the message is conveyed changes the message. The goal may be the same, to set someone up with a free solar consultation, but the message received is different. With weak language, the person subliminally hears low-value consultation, but with strong, assertive language, they hear high-value consultation. This is what I'm getting at when I say things like pick-me vegans are watering down the message. Strong language conveys urgency, severity, seriousness. Weak language does not. A pick-me vegans message is received as, maybe I should cut back on meat a little. Whereas a strong vegan advocate's message is received as, holy shit, this is an atrocity that I cannot in good conscience continue to support. With all that said, let's take a look at some examples. This first clip is from a video by Amber, aka The Fairly Local Family. I haven't seen much of her content, but this particular video of hers popped up in my feed titled, What's Up With My Health? Still Vegan? And I was like, oh no, is this another why I'm no longer vegan video? But it turns out she's still vegan, and I appreciated a lot of what she said in her video. Basically, she's struggling with a few health issues that she has struggled with all of her life before she went vegan. The medical professionals she's working with are supportive of her plant-based diet, and some of them have even said that her conditions could be a lot worse if she wasn't eating such a healthy diet. But this is the part that I took issue with.
I also want to make very, very clear in this video, even though I am vegan and have been vegan for a very long amount of time, I am not into telling other people what they should do with their lives or their bodies or their health. If you are doing something that makes sense for you, go ahead and do it. I am just really, really not interested in telling anyone what to do. I do what works for me, and I trust you'll do what works for you, and that's it. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your health or your body or your principles or your morals, your ethics, your traditions, your way of life. I'm not here to do that. I respect that everyone does what works for them.
This is a textbook example of relativism. In her view, there are no objective facts about nutrition, and morality is subjective. Regarding nutrition, it is the scientific consensus that a well-balanced vegan diet is not only nutritionally adequate, but even beneficial for humans. Pick-me vegans often claim that some people can't be vegan for health reasons, but they can never name a specific health condition that requires the consumption of animal flesh. Okay, I want to quickly jump in and add that I'm open to evidence. Veganism is about doing what is possible and practicable. If it is genuinely impractical for someone to eat 100% plant-based because of a health condition, I'm willing to acknowledge that they are an exception to the rule. But I have yet to see compelling evidence that such a condition exists. Regarding morality, it's pretty easy to demonstrate the insanity of moral relativism. If morality is subjective, we have no basis to condemn the Islamic practice of female genital mutilation because it's their cultural tradition. In their culture, it's not immoral. And obviously not all Muslims engage in this horrific practice. The next example is from an interview with Billie Eilish.
I've never been the type of person that like shoves my beliefs in people's faces ever in my life. I've never had meat in my life. I've always been a vegetarian, and like growing up, I never was like, don't eat that. You know? I don't give a fuck what you eat. Like, eat whatever you want.
Yeah, and it sounds so cliche, but you have to start with yourself in order to...
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And like, the people that are always like, I'm a vegan. In everyone's face, it's like, you're the reason people don't like vegans. I'm vegan. I'm not like out here like, don't eat that because blah, blah, blah. Like, shut the fuck up. I don't eat it because I have my own reasons for not eating it, and I have my own beliefs, and I have my own feelings of, wanting to save animals and save the planet and whatever, and like, I'm not gonna force anybody to do that because I wouldn't want them to force me.
Billie is perpetuating the false narrative that vegans are the ones being forceful by shoving their beliefs in people's faces. What is forceful is paying someone to shove their fist up a cow's vagina, impregnate them over and over again, steal their babies and their milk, and then bolt gun them in the head and slit their throat open. And being vocal about your beliefs is only a problem if your beliefs are harmful. She is also reinforcing the commodity status of animals by referring to them as food. Notice that she says eat whatever you want, rather than whoever you want. I don't give a fuck what you eat. And lastly, for the love of God, can we please stop with this whole vegans are hurting their cause by advocating for their cause nonsense. Okay, a few more points. She says I'm not going to force anyone to go vegan because I wouldn't want them to force me. First of all, she's forgetting about the true victims of force here. Second, I can't force anyone to go vegan. If I could, I would. Call me crazy, but I would like to live in a society with laws against exploitation and killing that are enforced. And third, if I am supporting an industry that is inflicting harm on others and I can avoid doing so, I would like to be informed about it so I can stop. Then, of course, there's the queen of pick-me vegans, Unnatural Vegan. The theme of her channel is literally, ooh, pick me, I'm not like those other vegans. I hate vegans, and vegans hate me. I would insert a montage of clips here, but that would require me to sift through a bunch of her videos where she drones on and takes forever to make a point, and I really don't want to do that, so we're just gonna move on. The last example is from a creator beloved by everyone, Tiffany Ferguson. Yes, I stan. Tiffany is awesome. It's an older video put out in 2017 titled 2 Years Vegan, What I've Learned and How I've Changed.
Today I am going to be responding to some of my old statements on veganism because one major thing that I want to talk about is how much I've changed in terms of my attitude about veganism, about being a vegan, how I treat non-vegans. Let me just start with this clip from an old video. I'm angry that there are people who say that they care about this planet and they care about the environment, but they would never go vegan. People want to feel like they're doing a good job by driving a hybrid or turning off the faucet when they brush their teeth, but they would never stop eating hamburgers. Watching that back, I'll be the first to admit that that video was very sassy and that that kind of attitude is probably not gonna get people to go vegan. Through these 2 years, I've learned so much and I get very passionate and very fired up about why I'm a vegan. And I'm also extremely disappointed in the animal agriculture industry and all of its impacts on the environment, the animals, and more. But that is still not a good excuse to be a dick to people. Who knew? In that video, I had good intentions, but it comes off in a bad way, you know?
The reason I chose to include this clip is because it perfectly illustrates how vegans have been gaslit by carnists. Like, how is she being a dick? Sassy? Maybe a smidgen, but what's wrong with a little sass? She's being way too hard on herself, and it sounds like she's been shamed into taking the just shut up about veganism and lead by example approach. Which is too bad because, like I said earlier, the animals need more people speaking up for them more often and unapologetically. By criticizing her former self, she is implicitly criticizing other vegans who have the same attitude or approach. Because she has been gaslit herself, she is unintentionally gaslighting other vegans. They hear this and think, oh shit, am I too harsh? Personally, I'm unconvinced that this kind of attitude is a problem. I've had this attitude for 8 years now, and I've managed to convince my mom, my sister, her husband, my husband, both of my exes, my brother, my aunt, 2 of my cousins, and a few of my friends to go vegan. And my brother-in-law, shout out. That's not including all of the people I don't know personally, who I either primarily or partially influenced to go vegan. Just saying. And yes, I have many non-vegan friends and family members who I'm able to maintain relationships with, despite my attitude. I understand that personality is a factor here. Some people are naturally more assertive. I don't expect every vegan to start marching in the streets with a megaphone. All I'm asking is for vegans to stop getting in the way of those who are. Stop putting down outspoken activists who are simply telling it like it is because they upset people and you want to be liked and accepted. I'm not saying you should never criticize vegan activists, but be specific when you do, and be careful not to propagate negative stereotypes about vegans. For example, that we're dicks for expressing valid frustration. And don't forget to bring the discussion back to the animals to provide perspective. A lot of times, vegans seem more eager to criticize other vegans than they are to criticize carnists because their underlying motivation is social approval. Or they've been gaslit into thinking that seeking social approval and appeasing the oppressor is how to bring about social change, despite the fact that every successful social justice movement has been won through argumentation and disruption. If you're skeptical of this claim, I highly encourage you to read the autobiography of Martin Luther King, or at the very least, his letter from Birmingham jail. Here's a quote from his letter addressed to his critics. "I must confess that over the last few years I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride towards freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, 'I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action.' A pick-me vegan is to the animal rights movement what the white moderate was and still is to the civil rights movement. A pick-me vegan isn't simply a passive vegan. They specifically put down assertive vegans, either subtly or outright, and they dilute the animal rights message with reducitarianism and moral relativism. Just as the pick-me girl phenomenon is rooted in sexism, the pick-me vegan phenomenon is rooted in speciesism. To those who argue that different approaches work for different people, and this is just a different approach. A speciesist approach is not going to end speciesism. You can't fight speciesism with speciesism. Real quick, I want to add that pick-me vegans tend to demonstrate a misunderstanding of what speciesism is. They think that anti-speciesism means valuing all life equally. It's not speciesist to value the life of a human over the life of a beetle, because there are factors other than species membership that we use to make this judgment call. For example, life expectancy and depth of emotional experience. Insects don't have the cognitive capacity to grieve, so the loss of their life does not carry the same weight as the loss of a human life. You can check out my video Speciesism Explained in 5 Minutes for a brief overview of this concept. The language of pick-me vegans reinforces the inferior status of non-human animals. You do you implies that eating animals is a personal choice rather than a choice that involves a victim. Eat whatever you want implies that animals are commodities rather than sentient beings. I don't judge implies that consuming animals is not a blameworthy action. This is speciesist, coming from those who take no issue judging people for mistreating humans. And this is one of the most frustrating things about pick-me vegans. They are often much more assertive with their beliefs regarding human rights, perhaps because they're met with less vitriol. Still some vitriol, don't get me wrong, but less. There are simply more people who are in support of BLM and LGBT rights than animal rights. Going back to my sales analogy, the toughest thing about sales is having to deal with the constant rejection and occasional projection. Like, some people are not happy that you dared to approach them or knock on their door, but you can't take it personally. You have to brush it off and understand that their reaction is their problem. You're just doing your job. Unless you're peddling some bullshit, in which case I understand why they're annoyed and you should probably look for a better job. Anyway, hundreds of people tell me no, straight up ignore me, or get pissed at me every single day. But it's a numbers game. Out of those hundreds of people, a few of them want a free solar consultation or to help fight plastic pollution or ICE detention centers. The same can be applied to vegan activism. More people will get mad because it's a particularly polarizing issue, but there are some people out there who are open to hearing the message. Along with strong language, another major key to success in sales is persistence. You can't let the haters stop you from doing your thing. If you feel like nearly every conversation you have about veganism doesn't go well, you should probably do some self-reflection and try to improve your communication skills. But you're not going to develop these skills unless you have those uncomfortable conversations. I've had many conversations about veganism over the years, and I've gotten pretty good at de-escalation. But even though most of my conversations now don't get heated, occasionally they still do. I have done self-reflection, and I've come to the conclusion that if someone is going to dislike me because of how vocal I am about animal rights, that's on them, not me. I'm just stating facts. Which brings me to my last point. We have facts and logic on our side. This is a serious issue that deserves serious attention. Be confident, be proud to be vegan. There's nothing to be apologetic about. Animals are suffering immensely, so please stop using rhetoric that downplays their suffering. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and comment down below, and as always, stay tuned for next week. Alright, peace out.
Yo, how when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me no eat no fish, nah, no meat now. How when me eat them, I wonder when me yam. When me tell them say that I'm a vegan man. How when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me no